One-on-One with Jane Mitchell, featuring the legends.
Baseball is full of characters who become part of the game's lore, and in the case of Rollie Fingers, become legends. He is recognized both here at the San Diego Hall of Champions Breitbart Hall of Fame and with the game's highest honor, the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York. We first told Rollie Fingers' story one-on-one in 1998. But sitting down with him again 3 decades after he hung up his cleats, we hear how even through some challenging times, he continues to value his baseball journey.
The sky is blue, the colors bright, the green's green. The desert is alive with the subtle sounds of morning on the links. And while baseball is reawakening around the country, for Rollie Fingers, springtime is now the beginning of a new season for golf charity events.
Really about the only thing that I can do to stay competitive is golf. You know, you can play golf till you're 80 years old, so I enjoy playing it. I've been playing it since I was 9 years old, so I do quite a bit of it. I do probably at least 24 charity golf tournaments a year all over the country, and I'm here for one this week in Palm Springs with Frank Sinatra Golf Tournament.
The Celebrity Invitational, benefiting the Barbara Sinatra Home for Abused Children.
She's been doing it 25 years, so I've been to just about every one of them. I've seen all the big stars come in and out, and it's fun to shake hands and rub elbows with some of these people.
And how's your game?
It's okay. It's not as good as it used to be, but I'm okay.
The day before that event, we meet him at the exquisite private Bighorn Golf Club in Palm Desert. He's playing as their guest, just for fun, with a group from the University of Nebraska.
You can't throw balls at guys out here either. I never did that.
Not on purpose, right?
We've seen Rollie Fingers over the years in Cooperstown for other Padre inductees and at San Diego golf charity events. But before delving more into his life and perspective these days, we reopen the archives and our interview from 1998. There is no mistaking his twisted and twirled and finally whirled trademark.
I have people come up to me and say, "Hey, you got a mustache just like Rollie Fingers." I said, "Yeah, really?" I tell him I'm better looking than he is, though.
His handlebar mustache is distinctive, his career distinguished. The baseball archives hold his stunning numbers, garnered in a career that spanned 3 decades, 3 teams, the Oakland A's, San Diego Padres, and Milwaukee Brewers. His resume includes pitching in 16 World Series games, holding the World Series record for saves, and in 1981, he became the first relief pitcher to win the prestigious Cy Young and be named the American League Most Valuable Player in the same year. Some awards are displayed at his home. All are close to his heart.
You win these over the course of maybe one season. Being a ball player and getting into the Hall of Fame is something that basically took me 22 years.
Rollie Fingers.
And it doesn't get any better than that. You walk through the hall, you see all the plaques, and you're saying, "Golly, man, I'm going to be a member of the Hall of Fame with all of these guys." You know, I'm looking up at Mickey Mantle and Sandy Koufax and all the guys that I idolized when I was a kid growing up, and all of a sudden I'm part of that team. And it was very exciting, and I think that's when it really hit me.
Holding back the tears, he paid tribute to his father, who had died just 5 months before Rollie learned of the Hall of Fame honor.
He taught me everything he knew about the game. He taught me how to pitch. He would have loved to have been here today, but somehow I know that he is.
Rollie Fingers' journey to Cooperstown began in Steubenville, Ohio. He was born August 25, 1946, the son of Edna, a teacher, and George, a steel mill worker. Roland Glenn Fingers, the oldest of 3, was named after one of his father's minor league baseball teammates.
Having the last name Fingers, I could have been a piano player or a pickpocket, or I could have been a whole lot of things.
But the young and reserved Rollie Fingers chose baseball, or perhaps baseball chose him.
And I said, well, maybe if these guys think that I'm good enough to be a professional baseball player, maybe I am. And I just started working on it real hard after that.
The Fingers family moved to Cucamonga in Southern California, where he played American Legion baseball. The Kansas City A's scouts watched him win his first, albeit high school, World Series and signed him after graduation. He spent 4 years in the minors, including Birmingham, Alabama.
That's when I started pitching pretty well.
In 1966, during the Vietnam conflict, Fingers enlisted in the Army Reserves for 6 years, often wearing an Army uniform by day, a baseball uniform by night. A good arrangement for when he was called up to the big club, which had moved to Oakland, at the end of the '68 season. He pitched against the powerhouse Detroit Tigers.
I pitched 1 1/3 innings and gave up a home run to Bill Freehan, gave up 4 earned runs in an inning and a third, and just got killed. You have to sit on that all winter long waiting for spring training to come around, knowing that you guys got ripped in the big leagues, and it was a little discouraging, but I came back okay.
Rollie Fingers would become a star of the Oakland A's.
From '69 through '76, we never finished less than second place.
The A's became the first club other than the Yankees ever to win 3 consecutive World Series.
You know, we had a crazy group of guys, the fighting in the clubhouse, the fighting on the field. Everybody loved us, and it was a lot of fun for us those 3 years.
Part of the fun evolved from part of the frustration of working for A's owner Charles Finley. Known for being combative, cheap, and oddly innovative, he required his players to wear the first ever vivid colored uniforms. And when the players followed Reggie Jackson's lead to grow facial hair in '72, Finley made an offer they couldn't resist.
If you had a mustache on opening day, he'd give you $300. So 25 guys had mustaches on opening day. And then we started growing the long hair, and we kept winning, and you know, that year we won the World Series. So after 3 straight World Series championships, it was kind of tough to shave the mustaches off, and that's how we became the Mustache Gang. They call us the Mustache Gang, so I've kept it ever since.
Thoughts of shaving it off?
Frank Robinson hit a home run off me, and Brooks Robinson hit a home run off me the next game, and I had the razor right there, and I said, nah, better not.
Appearance is one thing, but performance is what counted. He's in the Hall of Fame as a closer, but Fingers actually made it to the majors as a starting pitcher.
It was tougher for me being a starter. I worried too much about pitching one day and then setting for 4 days and then pitching again. I hated it.
He evolved into a relief pitcher after manager Dick Williams had no one else to go to hold the lead against the Yankees in '71.
I finished the game, got the save, pitched 2 innings. Next night came in, got another save, and he called me in the office and said, in game situations, I'm going to go to you as a closer.
That was the start of a new role in baseball, the closer, that the game has come to know and rely upon today.
Struck him out, and that's the ball game.
Despite his success with the A's, Fingers has some bad memories of the relationship between the players and the tight-fisted A's owner Charles Finley. In the wake of free agency, Fingers was even traded to the Red Sox for a voided 3-day deal.
And Charlie Finley was trying to unload all of the ball players that hadn't signed.
The A's championship club began to fall apart, and in 1977, Fingers signed with the fledgling San Diego Padres.
I had a lot of fun here in San Diego. The fans were great. You couldn't ask for a better place to live. I just wish we had a better ball club. But we had some great players. We had Ozzie Smith and Dave Winfield. Randy Jones is a starting pitcher. We had some guys that made the All-Star team. We had some power hitters. Being in Oakland and playing there for 5 straight years and winning 5 straight division titles, you know, it got to be old hat. It was fun, you know, and then all of a sudden I went to San Diego, and it was a struggle. You know, you get to August 1st and you're sitting there, you know, 15, 20 games out of first place, and well, that's a long month.
A trade in '81 led to 5 years with Milwaukee and pitching in yet another World Series in '82. But back surgery slowed him down, and he was released in '85. Cincinnati invited him to camp with one condition from the owner.
Marge Schatz wants you to cut your mustache off. I said, what? I said, she wants you to cut your mustache off. And I said, well, what difference does it make whether I have a mustache as far as my ability as a ball player? And he said that's our policy here, and she says you cannot have any facial hair. And I thought about it for a while, and I said, well, I'll tell you what, you tell Marge Schatz to shave her dog, and I'll shave my mustache. And I never heard back from the Cincinnati Reds.
He was out of the game.
You know, you play baseball for 22 years, and then all of a sudden, you know, you wait for that phone call and want to pick up that glove and go to spring training, and there's no phone call, and you don't want to, and you can't pick up the glove, and so you have to figure out what else are you going to do.
That first something else was a partnership in a moving business.
lost a lot of money, ended up having to file bankruptcy, which wasn't very much fun. And it was a tough transition for me.
He considered coaching or managing, but
And I didn't want to go back to riding buses, and I had my family and getting a chance to be with my kids.
in the 90s, Rollie Fingers has literally bounced back from his financial difficulties.
I don't know if I can pitch in these things.
His newest venture is promoting a European exercise boot.
Just push down and spring forward. There you go.
One lesson Fingers learned from the game: patience.
I learned to be very patient on the mound, not hurry up, think about what I was doing.
Seems to work for his golf game, and in 2015, a relaxed interview in the Bighorn Golf Club's lodge.
Well, let's go back a few years to 1998. We'll just sort of pick it up. What's changed since then for you?
Oh, golly. Since then, well, I've got two more kids. I've got a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. I got a 12-year-old boy and a 10-year-old daughter.
And 2 grandchildren.
I'm single. I play a lot of golf in Vegas. I live out at the South Shore at Las Vegas.
He's had a handful of divorces, and it's close to his 5 children: Laurel, Jason, Corey, Sammy, and Shaylin. The oldest son, Jason, started down the baseball path.
He was a 10th round draft pick with the Kansas City Royals about 10 years ago, and he played 3 years in the minor leagues and then blew his rotator in his shoulder and had an operation and couldn't throw after that. But he had a good chance to get there if he hadn't hurt himself.
Did the kangaroo thing ever take
Oh,
off?
yeah, kangaroo jumps. Yeah, we did those for a couple, 2-3 years. And the inventor, who lives over in Europe, wouldn't give us the rights to the United States. So we kind of got rid of that and went our different ways. And then we had a company called Sanitree. It was a water purification system. It was from South Africa to clean ponds out, pools out, and we did that for a little while and kind of got tired of doing that. And then I really got into nothing after that. I just moved to Las Vegas, and I do personal appearances now. I do charity work and do some autograph signings here and there and all that. So that's what I do now.
Rollie Fingers played in a different era with plenty of stories to tell. That's coming up, plus an emotional moment about living his dream.
Mr. Commissioner, Hall of Famers, invited guests, baseball fans. If it seems I'm a little nervous right now, I am. It's simply because I'm not used to starting things, if you know what I mean.
Baseball Hall of Fame video archives preserve the past and Rollie Fingers' timeless thanks, including to one of his 15 managers.
And he put me in the bullpen. And when he did that, he changed my whole career around because I was almost on my way out of baseball. And he gave me confidence in myself to be able to do the job out there, and he did that by doing one thing, and that was handing me the baseball day after day after day. And that was Dick Williams. Thank you, Dick.
With his Hall of Fame moniker, Rollie Fingers makes himself available for charity, corporate, and speaking events, his website listing a biography and professional services. He has to make a living, especially because, unlike many players of the 90s and beyond, he didn't earn or bank millions from his playing years.
In '72, I was making $29,000 winning the World Series, and we had a parade the next day in Oakland, ticker tape parade, and I went right straight from there over to Sears and Roebuck's, and I was stocking shelves in Sears and Roebuck's for the winter. That was my wintertime job. You had to have something coming in. If I'm making $6, $7 an hour back then doing that, but it was a paycheck.
Right.
And then you just wait till spring training and do it all over again.
His last year in Oakland.
I had to play for a 20% cut my last year with Charlie Finley in Oakland, so I was making like $64,000. And I became a free agent, and Ray Kroc and Buzzy Bavasi called up my agent and said, look, we'd like to talk to you in San Diego. So we flew down to San Diego, went into Ray Kroc's office with Buzzy Bavasi, and they both said, we'd like to have you on the team. We know you're a great relief pitcher, and we could certainly use you. And I said, okay, well, what kind of money are we talking about? And Buzzy looked over at me and he says, well, we'll give you a 5-year contract for $250,000 a year and a $500,000 signing bonus. I said, just give me the pen.
That was enough.
That was enough. I didn't even want to argue because I didn't want them to change their mind.
Wow.
So that's how I became a San Diego Padre. So I was locked in for 5 years and I was making real good. I mean, I was making five times the money I was. That's what free agency did to the game of baseball. And now it's ballooned up to the way it is now. Guys are making $10 million a year. I mean, these guys don't know what it was like back then.
But it was his numbers and performance on the field that became his priceless reward, immortalized in the Hall of Fame as a first ballot inductee and the first relief pitcher, a specialty role.
Johnny Murphy, Jim Constanti, Joe Black, Elroy Face, Dick Raditz, Lenny McDaniel, Ron Peronowski, Hoyt Wilhelm, and who could ever forget what Larry Sherry did in the 1959 World Series when he was the most valuable player. These are the pitchers that opened the door for the relief pitchers of my era.
Why is that important to return every year?
I like to go back. I think I like to see the new guys who are getting in because they certainly deserve it. You know, and I know how nervous they are because I know I was nervous. And the hardest part of going back there is getting through your speech.
Mom, I'd like to thank you for all your support. All those trips to the ballpark.
With one-on-one making 3 trips to Cooperstown, we have captured the excitement and elegant events for new honorees. But even with up-close access, one of the most special is the exclusive dinner. No media, no family allowed. Hall of Famers only.
I've been sitting at the same table every year for probably the last 12 to 15 years. There's like 6 of us there. Me and Steve Carlton, Tom Seaver, Don Sutton, Bob Gibson, and Sandy Koufax. We all sit at one table, and we all bring a bottle of wine, a real nice bottle of wine, and we sit there and we don't leave dinner until we've drank all the wine. And we talk baseball, we talk about other things, investing and whatever, and old times, and it's fun. It's a good time. I mean, Sandy Koufax was my idol growing up, and here all of a sudden I'm sitting here having dinner with Sandy Koufax. It's surreal.
I bet.
As of 2015, Rollie Fingers is one of only 5 in the exclusive subset of relief pitchers enshrined. He is hoping that will expand to include former Padre Trevor Hoffman, who retired with a remarkable 601 saves.
I think he's certainly deserving of a first ballot for the Hall of Fame, just like Mariano Rivera.
The Yankee who earned 652 saves. The rarity of the honor and the enormity of what it means for himself and fans, not lost on Rollie Fingers.
Well, it's nice to be recognized. You know, it doesn't bother me. You know, if they ask me for autographs, it's great.
Back in 1998, this is how fans described him.
Memory of Rollie Fingers, handlebar mustache. I mean, I was this high.
But I remember him coming in the late innings and saving a lot of games. He was really great here also.
I think it's always important that the respect is given to the players before you, regardless if it's 20 years ago or if it was 1 year.
And he enjoyed having his own bobblehead dolls.
I don't know why they did it, but here I got blue eyes and here I got brown eyes. I don't know what the difference is there.
He occasionally visits Milwaukee and Oakland, where with the A's there are reunions, and his likeness is now an in-game highlight with oversized Hall of Famers Fingers, Rickey Henderson, and Dennis Eckersley racing in between innings. And he returns to San Diego for major Padres events, such as Trevor Hoffman's number retirement ceremony in 2011.
And the gentleman you've seen and the guy who started it all, Hall of Famer Rollie Fingers.
I see your rings there. You wear those all the time?
These 2 I do. This is a World Series ring from 1972, and this is the Hall of Fame ring.
It is hard-fought, hard-won hardware that few earn every year or even in a lifetime.
Do you think of yourself as a legend?
No, I was just a ball player. You know, I never even thought about getting into the Hall of Fame after I retired. You know, there was no relief pitchers in, so I really had no statistics to gear myself to the fact that, well, who am I going to, you know, is my stats good enough to get in the Hall of Fame? And I never even really thought about it. And then about a year and a half before I went into the Hall, sports writers would start, you know, coming up to me. Do you think you'll get in? Oh, heck, I don't know. I'm not a sports writer, you know, I've got no clue. And, but when you get in, it's a life changer. It is a life changer. Just, you know, signing your name is one thing, but if you sign your name and then underneath you write HOF 92, that's huge.
In closing, I'd like to say to every relief pitcher before me, every guy who ever had to sit in a bullpen, every guy who ever had to sit and wait for a phone call to ring, and every guy who ever had to walk into a pressure situation, you all own a piece of this. You're all winners, and this day confirms it. Thank you.
How are the greens?
Whether on the golf course or just with curious fans, Rollie Fingers enjoys sharing stories.
One of my favorite ones is an autograph. When I was a kid, I was 13 years old. My dad took me to a Dodger game. They were playing the Giants. I love Willie Mays. I was sitting next to a kid in the bleachers, and he said, "You want to go get some autographs after the game?" I said, "You know where to get the guys' autographs where they come out?" And he says, "Yeah." And I asked my dad. He says, "Okay." So after the game, we go to this runway where all the players are coming out. You know, I'm seeing Duke Snyder, and I see Maury Wills, and you know, all these great. I couldn't get close to them. It was a madhouse in there. But I looked off to the left about 40 or 50 feet, and there was a door, and a door opened up, and there's Willie Mays, and he's sneaking out, and I spotted him, and so now I see him sneaking down in between cars. Now I'm running through the parking lot chasing Willie Mays, and I'm about 13 years old, and I finally got to this car, and I said, "Mr. Mays, could you sign my autograph?" And he said, "Sure." He said, "You know, Willie Mays," and I said, "Thank you," and that was it. 1973, Willie Mays' last hit, his last RBI, and his last strikeout was off me.
Wow.
And I told Willie that story, and I says, "Willie, it's a good thing you signed that autograph that day, or I'd have hit you." And he just laughs.
Oh, to then be at the Hall of Fame together.
Yeah,
That's
and we're
incredible.
sitting there having dinner. I think that's what I mean. A lot of these guys at the Hall of Fame are guys that I idolized growing up as a kid, watching them on black and white TV. And now you're sitting there having dinner with them.
Rollie Fingers does not forget what it was like to be a young kid who looked up to those in uniform, or how he didn't realize how he actually might become one of them, a lesson for anyone with similar aspirations.
I was the smallest kid on the team in Little League. I mean, I was a kid in the front row next to the bat boy. Really short and didn't weigh a whole lot. And then I got into high school, and when I was about a freshman in high school, I started sprouting a little bit. And then I got to be about 6'4" by the time I was a senior, so I was the center on the high school basketball team, and I was a pretty good athlete. I played basketball and baseball. But you know, I didn't know how good I was. You never know how good you are when you're in high school. And I was in a game, I had pitched a shutout in a high school game, and some guy came up to me after the game. I remember his name was Jess Flores, and he was a scout for the Minnesota Twins, and he came up to me after the game and said, "You ever think about being a professional ball player?" And I said, "No, not until just now." You know, and that's how it started. So if a scout thinks that you're good enough, then you improve your skills, and that's what I did.
Rollie Fingers shared his thoughts about two fellow Padres icons honored in Cooperstown who have since passed away. Tony Gwynn.
Certainly belongs here. I'm just glad of one thing, I never had to face him. They didn't make him any nicer than Tony. I mean, he was a sweetheart guy.
And Jerry Coleman.
I don't think I ever heard him rip one guy, but I bet in the 4 years I played in San Diego, I think I heard "Oh Doctor" about 7,000 times. So.
Oh, he was a great ambassador to the game.
Like those greats and others, Rollie Fingers has used his Major League and Hall of Fame platforms to do good, including for the military, as part of a Fox Sports spring training to the troops trip to Germany, boosting morale and thanking troops and their families. Then there's a nationwide cause he's been with from the beginning, 25 years, Kindervision, inspired by a tragic story of Leticia Hernandez.
She was an 8-year-old little girl who was kidnapped and later found murdered, and we started a group called Kindervision, and it's a child educational program to teach children what not to do in certain situations where they might be picked up by a predator.
Because when it comes to kids, the greatest save is the one we never have to make.
Do you have kind of a philosophy of how you live your life, or How you?
I'm pretty easygoing, you know. As long as I wake up in the morning, it's going to be a good day. That's all I care about. And you know, I enjoy being with my kids. I don't do any more games. I do a couple of fantasy camps. I'll go out and maybe throw the ball around and pitch to some fantasy campers, and they, you know, they just want to get a hit off me. You know, I don't throw hard enough to hurt anybody anymore, so I tell them, don't worry about me hitting you.
But he instilled plenty of fear in his day, something hitters knew, and in 1998, his young son Corey learned about after watching old clips of his dad.
I liked it how he tricked Johnny Bench, one of the World Series games. Whereas his catcher went into an intentional walk, and then he pulled back into the plate, and he just threw a fastball right down the plate. And I just can't believe that. He was like that good.
He was that good. And of all the highlights of his career, Rollie Fingers treasures this the most.
You know, for me, I think growing up as a kid, you wanted to be a big league ball player. And you always think about being on the mound in the 7th game of the World Series, getting the last out, and and I was there twice. It's something that you dream about as a kid, and then it's there, and then in 5 seconds it's gone. But what a 5 seconds.
While his baseball accomplishments make him a legend, Rollie Fingers is also a humble man making a living and a difference as part of his legacy. So whether it's for his distinctive mustache or Hall of Fame moniker, it's good to note that this icon is recognized and loved for good reasons. I'm Jane Mitchell. Thank you for watching One on One.
For backstory content, visit 4sd.com.